Welcome back, guys. A very, very good morning to all of you. I hope you guys are doing good. So, in the last few sessions, we discussed the concepts of overhead and activity-based costing. I hope you guys have solved all the questions of study material plus the past practice manual. So now, today we'll be starting with altogether a new chapter, that is cost sheet. So now this chapter is the most easiest chapter of the syllabus. From examination point of view, इतना frequently इसका question नहीं आता है, but yes, sometimes examiner do ask questions on cost sheet. So better not to skip this chapter, as again it's the easiest chapter of the syllabus. So very good morning Nikita, very good morning Mitesh, very good morning Shivani. So guys, now let's start with altogether a fresh chapter, that is cost sheet. Now, this chapter cost sheet is linked with two more chapters. Okay, Shivani, let me check. I'll see if I can solve it, or else I'll be keeping a query session in which I'll solve all the doubts relating to the chapters what I have discussed. Very good morning, Alok. Very good morning, Khushi. So now let's start with cost sheet. Now this chapter cost sheet is linked with two more chapters. ये जो cost sheet है, it is linked with two more chapters. That is unit and batch costing. And second chapter, it's a part of the chapter named Method of Accounting, wherein we'll be discussing reconciliation of cost and financial accounts. Again, there is no separate chapter for reconciliation of cost and financial accounts. It's a part of chapter named Method of Accounting. So for the better understanding of these two concepts, you have to learn cost sheet first. ये दो चैप्टर समझने से पहले आपको cost sheet आना बहुत जरूरी है. Very good morning, Saipa. So now let's start with cost sheet. Now, what is cost sheet? Or what is statement of cost? So what is cost sheet? Basically, it is a statement. What is cost sheet? ये एक तरह का statement है. It is a statement wherein we systematically arrange all the costs that are incurred in relation to manufacture of a product. I repeat again, what is cost sheet? It is a statement wherein we systematically record all the expenditure that are incurred in relation to manufacture of a product. What is cost sheet? Cost sheet is a statement wherein we record systematically all the expenditures that are incurred in relation to So what is cost sheet? Cost sheet is a statement wherein we record systematically all the expenditure that are incurred in relation to manufacture of a product. So now, when talking about expenditure or cost, as I've already discussed, but for the students who have not joined, material or overheads. So, when talking about expenditure or cost, these costs can be classified in two parts. That is direct cost and now what is direct cost? What is indirect cost? I have already discussed in detail in overheads, but for the students who have not attended my overhead session, for them I'll be giving just a brief about what is direct cost and indirect cost. So I repeat again, we are discussing this chapter cost sheet. What is cost sheet? Cost sheet is a statement wherein we systematically record all the expenditures or costs that are incurred in relation to manufacture of a product. When talking about cost, cost can be classified in two parts, that is direct cost and indirect cost. What is direct cost? The cost that is directly attributable in manufacture of a product is direct cost. When talking about indirect cost, the cost that play a supporting role in manufacture of a product is indirect cost. So what is direct cost? The cost that is directly attributable in manufacture of a product is direct cost. When talking about indirect cost, the cost that play a supporting role in manufacturing a product is indirect cost. When talking about direct cost can be classified in three parts. That is direct material, direct labor, and all the other direct expenses. When talking about indirect cost, again it covers indirect material, indirect labor, and indirect expenses. Very good morning, Sri Lakshmi. So now, direct cost and indirect cost. What is direct cost? The cost that is directly attributable in manufacturing a product is direct cost. And when talking about indirect cost, the cost that play a supporting role in manufacturing a product is indirect cost. Direct cost covers direct material, direct labor, and direct expenses. And indirect cost covers indirect material, indirect labor, and indirect expenses. Now, what is the difference between direct and indirect material? Let's say I'm the manufacturer of wooden furniture. Now, this wooden furniture is made up of wood. So, wood is what? My direct material. Now, wood को चिपकाने के लिए sometimes we use Fevicol. So again, Fevicol is nowhere present in the final product. So we call it as indirect material. Now, when talking about, let's say another example, I'm a manufacturer of shirts. This shirt is made up of fabric. So fabric is what? My direct material. Now, these fabrics are stitched on machines. These fabrics are stitched on machine to convert it into shirt. So for the smooth functioning of machine, we are using lubricating oil, grease, and other consumables. So that is what we call as, are these lubricating oil, grease anywhere present in the final product? No. So this is what we call as indirect material. So I hope you guys, hello. So when talking about direct and material, this direct and indirect material, this part is already covered in detail in overheads. But for the students who have not joined overheads, so just giving you a quick brief for the same. When talking about direct and indirect labor, let's say I'm the manufacturer of shirt and I have appointed approx 100 workers who do the stitching job. So the wages paid to them is what? Direct labor. But let's say since they are directly involved in manufacturing a shirt. Now let's say to supervise the work done by these 100 people, to supervise the work done by these 100 people, I have kept 5 supervisors to keep a check on them that whether they are doing their job perfectly or not. So is the supervisor directly involved in manufacturing a product? No. So the amount paid to supervisor is what? Indirect labor. Another example, let's say I've kept a gatekeeper, or we can say a watchman at the factory gate. Again, this watchman is nowhere involved in manufacturing a product. So the amount paid to that watchman is what? Indirect labor. 1 second, guys. अशोक सर शायद वो सर का म्यूट पे नहीं है, आप प्लीज उनको म्यूट पे कर देंगे. अशोक सर, अशोक सर, आर यू देयर? ओ सर शायद म्यूट पे नहीं है. ओके, परफेक्ट. So I hope this part is clear to all. Direct labor and indirect labor. When talking about direct labor, the labor who are directly involved in manufacturing a product. So the tailors who are actually doing the stitching job, the wages paid to them is what? Direct labor. But let's say I've appointed a supervisor and supervisor is supervising the work that is done by these workers. So the amount paid to the supervisor is indirect labor. Apart from this, the watchman who is the watchman or a security guard of the factory, the amount paid to him is what? Indirect labor. Now, when talking about indirect expenses and direct expenses, again, direct expenses, we can say the expenses that are directly involved in manufacturing a product. Can give you a few examples on direct expenses, that is power, coal, and fuel. Another example, let's say I'm the manufacturer of cars and and the cars are unique. They use solar energy. Instead of petrol, instead of diesel, instead of battery based, they are using solar energy. And I have derived the technology support from a Japan-based company. Again, the amount paid as royalty to that Japan-based company is what? My direct expenses. Apart from this, if I'm paying any sort of technical fees or know-how fees also, it will form part of direct expenses. So when talking about direct expenses, the examples are, we can say power, coal and fuel, plus the technical fees or know-how fees if we are paying. Apart from this, if there are any molds or dies and we are amortizing the cost of molds or patterns, then again, it will be a part of direct expenses. When talking about indirect expenses, long list. So apart from all the expenditures what we have discussed, the remaining will form part of indirect expenses. That is rent what we are paying, depreciation, insurance, rates and taxes. So all these form part of indirect expenses. So if you guys have any doubts till now, you guys can please ask me. Waiting for your queries, guys. Further, I request you guys to please copy this explanation also. Many congratulations to you, Khushbu. Thank you so much, dear. And wish you good luck for finals. Miss Kanchan Kumari, sir, what is written after financial? Where is financial? Very good morning, Mrs. Lakshmi. I request you guys to please copy this part. I have started with cost sheet. What is cost sheet? Cost sheet is a statement wherein we systematically record all the expenditures that are incurred during the course of manufacture of a product. When talking about the cost or expenditures, the cost or expenditure can be classified in two parts, that is direct and indirect. This part I have already covered in detail in overheads, but for your reference, direct cost is the cost that is directly attributable in manufacture of a product. When talking about indirect cost, the cost that play a supporting role in manufacture of a product. Direct cost covers direct material, direct labor, direct expenses. Indirect cost covers indirect material, indirect labor, and indirect expenses. Now, the total of these three, the total of direct material plus direct labor plus direct expenses, we call it as prime cost. I repeat again, the total of direct material plus direct labor plus direct expenses will be called as prime cost. So what is prime cost? Direct material plus direct labor plus direct expenses. When talking about these indirect costs, we can call it as overhead also. These overheads are further incurred at three levels. I have already discussed this part in overheads also. That is factory level, office and administration level, and selling and distribution level. So all these overheads will be systematically arranged according to their nature in this statement of cost, that is cost sheet. Whatever the queries you have, you guys can please post your queries. So now how to record all the cost in a systematic way? That is how to prepare cost sheet. So let's start with the statement of cost, that is cost sheet. There is a fixed format you have to remember. So this is the fixed format. You guys have to memorize the format, and after that only you can solve the questions. So let's start with cost sheet now. Now the first point is direct material. As I told you that direct material plus direct labor plus direct expenses is what? Prime cost. So the first point in the cost sheet is what? Direct material. Now the point is, if direct material is directly given in the question, अगर direct material जो है straight away question में दिया हुआ है, तो we will write direct material. But let's say some information is given in the question as regards opening stock of raw material, closing stock of raw material, purchase of raw material, then yes, we have to write all these items. So herein, the first point what we will write is opening stock of raw material. We will add the purchase of raw material and we will subtract closing stock of raw material. This is how we will get raw material consumed. So the first point in the cost sheet is opening stock of raw material. We will add the whatever the raw material that is purchased and we will deduct the closing stock of raw material to get the final value that is the raw material consumed. Now, when talking about the purchase of raw material, whatever the cost that is incurred from the supplier premise to the my factory gate. I repeat again, whatever the costs that are incurred from supplier's premise to my factory gate will form part of cost of raw material. So when talking about purchase of raw material, when talking about the purchase of raw material, we'll first write the purchase price, that is the amount that is being paid to the supplier. In purchase price, we will add whatever the expenditures that are incurred till the factory gate. So now, let's say I have procured this raw material from, let's say, Germany. So again, the import duty I have to pay for clearing my goods from the custom authority. So we will pay the custom duty for the same. So if custom duty is paid, it will be added. Further, Germany से India आएगा raw material, तो again कुछ freight cost incur होगा, कुछ carriage cost incur होगा. So if it is borne by us, then yes, we will add carriage or freight inward. Further, if we are paying any sort of commission on purchase, again it will be added to the cost. Further, if we are paying GST, suppose if I have procured material from a local supplier, he do charge GST on the total amount of the bill. So here, if the GST is paid, we will add the GST amount paid. If any state tax is levied in the form of octroi, again it will be added. Apart from this, whatever the expenditures that are, let's say, transit insurance, if it is borne by the buyer, again it will be added. So all these are expenditure till my factory gate, this will be added. Now when talking about the deduction part, we are paying GST to the supplier. And if we are getting the credit of the GST, if we are getting back the credit of GST, it will be deducted. So if we are getting any sort of credit of GST, then it will be deducted. Further, let's say, due to the nature of the product, in transit, certain percentage of material is damaged. And if we are selling this damaged material in the market and realizing something, then amount on sale of that scrap or amount on sale of that waste will be deducted. Sale of scrap of raw material. I'm writing this part in bold. Sale on scrap of raw material only will be deducted. The final value that is calculated will be shown in cost sheet. Alternatively, you can show this calculation in cost sheet also. So both the approaches are correct. Either आप working note में ये calculation show कर दीजिए and then the final figure will appear in cost sheet, or alternatively, you can show this entire calculation in cost sheet also. Yes, Mr. Abdul, if we are getting any sort of duty drawback or DEPB credit or target plus credit under the target plus license scheme, then this will be deducted. So this amount will be the total purchase price of raw material. So I repeat again, the purchase price, add custom duty, freight inward, carriage inward. If the commission is paid on purchase, it will be added. If we are paying GST, it will be added. Octroi, if we are paying, it will be added. Any sort of transit insurance, if we are paying, it will be added. Further, when talking about the deduction, if we are getting back the credit of GST, if we are getting the GST credit on the amount paid, then again it will be deducted. If we are getting anything on sale of scrap of raw material, then yes, it will be deducted from the purchase price of raw material. So the final amount will appear in the cost sheet. So this is all what about direct material. So thereafter, the next element of the cost, that is direct cost, is what? Direct labor. Material part is over. Raw material jitna consume kiya hai, we have already calculated. So this is the raw material consumed. In this what? The second element we will add, that is direct labor. So thereafter, after material, it will be direct labor and all the direct expenses. So direct material plus direct labor plus direct expenses will calculate the total, and this total will be prime cost. I have already discussed this part, that is prime cost. So in short, the total of all the direct expenses is what? Prime cost. If you guys have any queries in this part, yes, it will be deducted, Saifa. बट इट ये जो कॉन्सेप्ट है परचेज रिटर्न, सेल्स रिटर्न, ये सब फाइनेंशियल अकाउंट्स में होता है. So these all are the estimated figure. This cost sheet is also an estimated data. So we'll just calculate the total amount of purchase. I request you guys to please copy this part because I'll be erasing this part because this is a long statement. So I'll be needing more space. So I request you guys to please copy this part separately. Put up a note and copy this part. Don't copy this part. I'll be discussing many more points in cost sheet, but I request you guys to please copy this part. Waiting for your queries. If you guys have any doubts, you guys can please post your queries. This is octroi. Octroi जो है, this was the state tax that was levied before GST, but after implication of GST, octroi has been removed. But still, there are few questions wherein the information relating to octroi is given, so we have to add it. This will be adjusted in the purchase price, Mr. Abdul. So ignore any loss on sale of scrap. Whatever the amount that is derived on sale of waste will directly be deducted. Ignore the calculation of loss or profit. Yes, Shivani, I'll be providing extra questions also. Don't worry. For next chapter, you'll be finding altogether fresh questions on each and every chapter. Manoj Kumar Thakur, sir, what is cost object? Let's say this cost sheet is prepared to manufacture a mobile phone. So what is mobile phone? A cost object. I repeat again, ये जो cost sheet हम लोग prepare कर रहे हैं, this is an estimated cost data to manufacture a mobile phone. So this mobile phone is what? My cost object. Yes, Manoj Kumar. So now guys, let's proceed further. After the calculation of prime cost, we will systematically arrange all the indirect cost or overheads in cost sheet. So let's start guys with the first level, that is at the factory levels. Whatever the expenditures that are incurred at the factory level will be first added to the prime cost. So we will add all the factory overheads in prime cost. We will add all the factory overheads that are incurred. Now, what all are factory overheads? It can be direct, indirect material, indirect labor, indirect expenses at the factory level. So whatever the factory overheads that are incurred, it will be added. We will calculate the total of all the factory overheads and it will be added in this prime cost. I repeat again, in prime cost, we will add all the factory overheads. So the total of this factory overheads, in this we will add prime cost and thereafter we will get the gross factory oblique work cost. So in simple terms, prime cost में अगर हम लोग सारे factory overheads add कर देंगे, तो we will get the gross factory cost or work cost. Whatever the chapters I am discussing, Sunil Kumar, I'll be giving extra questions. Don't worry. So how to calculate gross factory cost, work cost? Very simple. In prime cost, whatever the overheads that are incurred at the factory level will be added to calculate the gross factory cost or work cost. When talking about the factory overheads, I'll give you a few examples. That is the depreciation on factory building. We can say Depreciation on factory building will form part of factory overhead. Other consumables will form part of factory overheads. Depreciation on machinery will form part of factory overheads. If we are paying supervisor salary, again it will form part of factory overheads. If we are paying rent of the factory, it will form part of factory overheads. Apart from this, it can be insurance of machinery. It will form part of factory overheads. So there is a long list. So in short, dimag lagao and then identify that what all are factory overheads, what all are administration overhead, and what all are selling and distribution overheads. So guys, you have to apply your brains that what all is covered in factory overheads, what all is covered in office overheads. There is no fixed list of factory, office, or administration overhead. It may differ from company to company. So, after calculation of gross factory cost or work cost, we will make adjustments of opening and closing work in progress. We'll make adjustments of opening and closing work in progress. We will add opening work in progress and we will deduct closing work in progress. This is how we will get the factory cost oblique work cost. So after calculating the gross factory cost or work cost, we will make adjustments of whatever the goods that are still in process. So we will add the goods that are finished during the year. We call it as add opening work in progress. And the goods that remain or the products that remain unfinished at the year end, we will deduct to calculate the total factory cost or work cost. So after calculating the factory cost and work cost or work cost, we will add a few more items. So here we will add few more points, that is quality control cost, research and development cost, we'll add quality control cost, research and development cost, plus further we will add office overheads related, or we can say administration overhead related to production. Further, we will add primary packing cost, and we will deduct credit for recoveries. The total will be transferred to the outer column, and this is how we will get cost of production. So, very good morning, Ismail. So now, in factory cost, we will add quality control cost, research and development cost, administration overhead related to production, plus primary packing cost also, less credit for recoveries. Now, I'll be discussing each and every point one by one. So let's start. Let's start with quality control cost. Now, whatever the costs that are incurred to maintain the quality standards or to maintain the standardization of product will form part of quality control cost. Let's say I have set up a separate department to maintain the quality standards. So whatever the cost relating to this department will form part of quality control cost. The examples can be salary paid to quality control manager. Let's say if we are using any sort of material to test the quality of the product. So again, the cost of material that is used to test the quality will form part of quality control cost. When talking about research and development cost, again, the costs that are related or directly or indirectly related to research and development will form part of research and development cost. Now, what research and development is done? To improve the quality, to improve the product, to improve the production process. For the labor welfare who are actually working in the factory. I repeat again, the research and development work is done to improve the product, to improve the specifications of the product, to improve the production process. For modernization of production process, we do research and development costs. So whatever the costs that are related to research and development will form part of research and development cost. It will always be given in the question, Manoj Kumar. So next part is primary administration overhead related to production. Again, whatever the administration overhead that are incurred at the factory level will form part of administration overhead related to production. Let's say salary paid to production control manager. Salary paid to production control manager will form part of administration overhead related to production. Thereafter, primary packing cost, a very simple concept. What is primary packing cost? Let's say I'm the manufacturer of soft drink, and these soft drinks are delivered to the consumers in Tetra Pak. Without Tetra Pak, we can't deliver. So these Tetra Paks are what? Primary packing cost. Apart from this, let's say there is a carton wherein 12 Tetra Paks are kept. I repeat again, a carton. We do also use cartons to store these 12 Tetra Paks. So the cost of that carton is what? Secondary packing cost. It will form part of selling and distribution. But yes, for the without primary packing cost, the product cannot be delivered or cannot be consumed. So primary packing cost will form part of cost of production. So that the best example is Tetra Pak, what the company is using to supply any sort of juices or something like that. If you guys have any doubts in this part, when talking about credit for recoveries, guys, sorry I skipped this part, very important part. Raw material agar scrap hota hai, it will be deducted from the purchase price. But if some waste arises from the production process, and if that waste is sold in the market, I repeat again, if some waste arises during the manufacturing process or from the production process, and that waste or scrap is sold in the market, then the amount realized for the same is what? Credit for recoveries. Another example, if during the course of manufacturing a byproduct is generated, and the amount realized on byproduct will be deducted to calculate the cost of production. So let's take an example. I am the manufacturer of sugar from sugarcane. During the course of manufacture of sugar, a byproduct molasses is generated. So this molasses can be sold in the market. So amount realized on sale of molasses will be deducted for calculating the cost of production. So when talking about credit for recoveries, very important point, guys, amount realized on sale of scrap generated during manufacturing process. Amount realized on sale of scrap generated during manufacturing process is what credit for recoveries. Or we can say amount realized on sale of byproduct. So अगर raw materials damage हुआ है and if it is sold in the market, it will be deducted from the purchase price. But during the production process, अगर कुछ waste generate होता है and if that waste or scrap is sold in the market, yes, it will be deducted for calculating the cost of production. If you guys have any doubts, you guys can please post your query. In factory cost or work cost, we will add very important quality control cost, research and development cost, administration overhead that are directly related to production. Apart from this, the primary packing cost, and we will deduct credit for recoveries to get the cost of production. So if you guys have any doubts, you guys can ask me. I request you guys to please copy this part. Now, after calculating the cost of production, we will make adjustments of opening and closing stock of finished goods. So we will add opening stock of finished goods and we will deduct closing stock of finished goods. To calculate the cost of the units that are actually sold in the market. So that is called as cost of goods. So I repeat again, after calculating the cost of production, we will make adjustments of opening and closing stock of finished goods to get the cost of goods sold. So we will add opening stock of finished goods and we will subtract closing stock of finished goods. So the value derived is what we call as cost of goods sold. Now in cost of goods sold, we have to add few more points to calculate the total cost. I understand it's a lengthy statement, but yes, guys, if you solve 2 to 3 questions with this format, you will be able to memorize it. So now, after calculating the cost of goods sold, we will add the overheads that are incurred at office level, selling level, and distribution level. So we will add general office and administration cost. Whatever the expenses that are incurred at the office level, we can say rent of office building, printing and stationery, apart from this audit fees paid to the director, plus computer depreciation, depreciation on office furniture, office electricity, office lighting, apart from this insurance of office building, apart from this we can say auditor fees, depreciation on the vehicles what directors are using. All these will form part of general office and administration overhead. Thereafter, we will add all the expenses that are incurred at the sales level. So selling overheads, and distribution overheads. When talking about selling and distribution cost, whatever the costs that are incurred relating to sales and distribution will form part of selling and distribution cost. That is delivery vehicles depreciation, salesman commission. If we are distributing any sort of free samples, it will form part of sellings overhead, advertisement expenditures. Apart from this, we can say carriage outward will form part of selling and distribution overhead. The secondary packing cost, that is the cartons in which these Tetra packs are packed, this will also form part of distribution cost. So in this, we will add general office and administration overhead, selling overhead, distribution overhead. The total will be transferred to the outer column. This is how we will get the cost of sales. And this will be the cost of the units that will actually be sold in the market. So this is all what about statement of cost. I request you guys to please copy this statement. I'll be summing up everything in detail again. So I request you guys to please copy the statement first, and then we'll sum up what we have discussed in today's session. Yes, Manoj Kumar Thakur. Yes, it is very easy and very logical, wherein we will first record the direct expenses, thereafter the indirect expenses, first at the factory level, then at the office level, and then at the selling and distribution level. It will form part of cost of material, dear. Mr. Mitesh, material loading and unloading will form part of cost of material, that is the purchase price of raw material. So guys, let's sum up what we have discussed in cost statement. First, we will write direct material. That is, if direct material is given, then direct material. Else will calculate opening stock of raw material, add purchase of raw material, less closing stock of raw material. This is how we will calculate raw material consumed. In raw material, we will add what? Direct labor and direct expenses. In raw material consumed, we will add direct labor and direct expenses. The total of these three will be what? The prime cost. Now move towards the next part of the cost, that is indirect cost at 3 stages. So right from start, we will start with the factory level, wherein whatever the expenditures that are incurred at the factory level, we call it as factory overhead, will be added in the prime cost. So after adding, we will get the gross factory cost or work cost. In gross factory cost or work cost, we will make the adjustments. We will make adjustments of opening and closing work in progress. So after making adjustments of opening and closing work in progress, we will get factory cost and work cost. Now, after calculating factory cost, work cost, 4 elements we have to add. First, quality control cost. I repeat again, after calculating factory cost or work cost, we will add, first of all, quality control cost, research and development cost, administration overhead that are directly related to production. Thereafter, primary packing cost and less credit for recoveries. So after making all these adjustments, we will get cost of production. कि जो units हमने manufacture किए हैं, उसका cost क्या है? Let's say 50,000 units are manufactured. So this will be the cost of units that are manufactured. After making adjustments of opening stock and finished goods, opening and closing stock of finished goods, we will get the cost of units sold, not of units manufactured. This is the cost of units manufactured. This is the cost of units what we are actually manufacturing. And this is the cost of units that are actually sold. So let's say 50,000 units are manufactured. In aggregate, 50,000 units are manufactured. There is no opening stock of finished goods. 10,000 units are still in stock. I repeat again, there is no opening stock of finished goods. We have manufactured 50,000 units. 10,000 units are still in stock. So actually the units sold are how much? 40,000. So herein, this cost belongs to 50,000 units and this cost belongs to 40,000 units. Thereafter, we'll make adjustments of general office and administration overheads, selling overhead and distribution overheads to get the cost of sales, that is the cost of units sold. Okay, Sunil Kumar. First and the foremost query from Miss Ashlesha. Sir, what is the difference between office administration overhead and general office and administration overhead? Both the terms are same. You can use it interchangeably. Sunil Kumar, sir, carriage outward is a factory overhead or a direct material? Carriage outward. Iska matlab kya hua? Just again, think logically. Carriage outward matlab factory se saman bahar bechne ka kharcha, bhada. So the freight paid for sending the goods outside the factory. So carriage outward will form part of distribution overheads. Next is Abdul. Allowance and perquisite paid to workers form part of labor cost. Yes. Whatever the allowance, whatever the perquisites, whatever the bonus, whatever the overtime, if any amount is deposited, is to be deposited in provident fund also, it will form part of labor cost. In short, whatever the amount directly or indirectly paid to labor or workforce who are actually involved in manufacturing a product will form part of direct labor cost. When talking, Manoj Kumar Thakur, advertisement expenses will be part of selling overheads. Yes. Mr. Alok, that part is not covered in this chapter, Mr. Abdul. When Alok has said, sir, Pepsi is spending very high amount in marketing, the value of goodwill of Pepsi, I repeat again, the value of goodwill of the value of brand of Pepsi, जो Pepsi brand है, इसका value जो है, इसकी fixed asset से भी ज़्यादा है. Because of all this, what they are spending on advertisement. So advertisement is must nowadays and in each and every company. This is administration overhead related to production. And this is general administration and office overheads. So that is the difference. If the administration overheads are incurred related to production, it will form part of cost of production. Pre-samples will form part of selling overheads. Guys, you can please post your queries if you have any doubts. Carriage outward will form part of distribution overhead. Carriage inward will be added to the cost of purchase. Primary packing will form part of cost of production. Secondary packing will form part of distribution cost. Waiting for your queries. Whatever the doubts you have in your mind, please post your query. I'll try to address each and every query of yours. Salary and wages. If salary and wages is given, it will form part of office overheads. But if wages and salaries are given, it will form part of direct labor cost. The same concept is taught in grade 11 also. Supervisor and manager salary. Mr. Ismail, supervisor and manager salary will form part of office overheads. Commission, if it is paid on purchases, then it will be added to the purchase cost. If the commission is paid on sales, it will be added to the selling and distribution cost. So guys, done with this part, that is the cost sheet. Now guys, a very important point. If the value of finished goods is not given in the question, very important point. If value of finished stock, or we can say value of closing stock of finished goods is not given, then in that case, finished goods will be valued at cost of production. Closing So let's say my cost of production is 10 lakh. Units manufactured units manufactured are 50,000. And units sold are, let's say, 40,000. So in this case, closing stock of finished goods will be how much? Total units manufactured were 50,000. Of this, 40,000 units are sold. It means closing stock of finished goods will be how much? 10,000. And the value is not given in the question. And the value is not given in the question. Then in that case, we will calculate the cost of production, the per unit cost of production. So here in my total cost of production is how much? 10 lakh divided by 50,000. So the cost per unit is how much? Rupees 20 per unit. So the value of finished stock will be how much? 10,000 into 20. So this will be 2 lakh. So in short, what I wanted to say is that if the value of finished goods, if the value of closing stock of finished goods is not given in the question, if the value of closing stock of finished goods is not given in the question, then it will be valued at the cost of production. I request you guys to please copy this part. One second, guys. Now, there are certain items which will never form part of cost sheet. Certain item not to be considered in cost sheet. There are certain items which will never form part of cost sheet. So let's start, guys. If any sort of information is given relating to these items, then better ignore. It will never form part of cost sheet. So if bad debts are given, if in question bad debts are given, it will never form part of cost sheet. Any profit oblique loss on sale of assets or investments will never form part of cost sheet. Can you please repost your query and be clear what exactly you are asking, Mr. Ismail? I'm not getting what you want. So the first point is bad debts. Bad debts will never form part of cost sheet. Profit or loss on sale of assets or investment will never form part of cost sheet. One more point. If any information is given relating to purchase or sale of assets, again it will never form. अगर suppose question में assets ही दिया हुआ है, suppose factory building rupees 5 lakh, it will not form part of cost sheet. So any sort of purchase or sale of assets, plus if any sort of assets or liabilities are given, it will not form part of cost sheet. Let's say information is given that factory building rupees 10 lakh. Now guys, you have to ignore, but yes, the depreciation on factory building will form part of factory overheads. Thereafter, any sort of abnormal gain and abnormal loss will never form part of cost sheet. Any sort of abnormal gain or abnormal item also will never form part of cost sheet. Further, any sort of provisions if given in the question will not. Provisions by whatever name called, that is provision for bad debts, provision for discount, or any sort of provisions or any sort of transfer to reserve will never form part of cost sheet. So any sort of provisions and any sort of transfer to reserves will never form part of cost sheet. Thereafter, interest or dividend received or paid will never form part of cost sheet. Interest paid will never form part of cost sheet. Interest received will never form part of cost sheet. If any information is given in the question to confuse you guys, proposed dividend or dividend paid or dividend received on investment, again it will never form part of cost sheet. Any sort of compensation, or we can say any sort of extraordinary items, that is, suppose we have to compensate someone, it is an order of court, or we have to pay any compensation under any law. So any sort of, we can say, extraordinary item. Compensation is an example of extraordinary item. So any sort of extraordinary item will never form part of cost sheet. Further, any sort of penalties, fines, by whatever name called, will also not form part of. Any sort of demurrage charges, again it is the form of penalty only, it will not form part of cost sheet. Very important point, if any subsidy is received, I repeat again, if any subsidy is received on purchase of raw material, then it will be deducted from the purchase price. I repeat again, very important point, if any subsidy is received on purchase of raw material, then it will be deducted from the cost of raw material. If you guys have any doubts, queries in this part, you guys can ask me. Waiting for your queries, guys. I request you guys to please copy this explanation. If any subsidy is received in the form from government for purchasing any kind of raw material, then only it will be deducted. Rest all we have to ignore. I request you guys to please copy this part, and if you have any queries, you guys can please post your queries, giving you 2 minutes time. Sunil Kumar, if it is a normal compensation, yes, it will be added to either salaries or wages. But if it is awarded by any sort of code, then we have to ignore it. I'll be discussing one question, Ismail, for the same. I'll be discussing one practical question wherein some information is missing in the question. So don't worry, Mr. Ismail. Now the concept part is over relating to cost sheet. We have to discuss now the practical question. So let's take 10 minutes break. And in that break, I want you to revise what I have discussed till now. That is, first and the foremost thing, the statement of cost, the format of the statement of cost. Second point, what all not to be included while preparing cost sheet. So these 2 points, I request you guys to please revise. Let me check, there is a query. No, it will not form part of cost sheet, Abdul. Whatever the amount that is paid, that will only form part of cost sheet. So let's take a break of 10 minutes and thereafter I'll be back with all the practical questions, the practical sums on cost sheet. So let's take a break of 10 minutes. Welcome back, guys. So now we are done with all the concepts relating to cost sheet. Now we'll be starting with practical questions now. So I'll be discussing the questions of study material only. So guys, I request you to please open your study material. I'm discussing illustration number 2 first, page number 6.11. I request you guys to please open your study material. I'll be discussing the questions of study material only. I'm discussing illustration number 2. So let's start, guys. The following information has been obtained from the records of ABC Corporation for the period from 1st June to 30th June. So the monthly data is given wherein the cost of raw material, that is opening and closing stock, is given. Opening closing stock of work in progress is given. Opening closing stock of finished goods is given. Further, the purchase of raw material is given. Wages paid are given. Factory overheads are given. Administration overhead related to production is given. Selling and distribution is given. Selling and distribution overheads are given. And the sales figure is given. So prepare a statement giving the following information, that is raw material consumed, prime cost, factory cost, cost of goods sold, and net profit. So guys, let's start with this question, a very easy question. If you guys are thorough with the format, you have to easily place these figures in the format and you will get the answer. So let's discuss illustration number 2. So here in the opening stock of raw material is given, that is 60,000. We will add purchase of raw material. The purchase price is given, that is 4,80,000. We'll deduct the closing stock of raw material. And that is 50,000. So the total will be 4,90,000. In this, we will add all the wages paid. So we'll add wages paid during the month, and that is 2,40,000. Now, no information is given in the question as regards direct expenses. So the total of material and wages will be what? Prime cost. So this will be 4,90,000 plus 2,40,000. So this will be 7,30,000. In prime cost, we will add all the factory overheads. So herein in this question, the information is given that the total amount of factory overheads are how much? 1 lakh. So this will be 8,30,000 and this is gross work cost, gross factory oblique work cost. In this, we will make adjustments of opening and closing work in progress. So add opening work in progress and subtract closing work in progress. The information is given in the question as regards opening and closing work in progress, that is 12,000 and 15,000. So this will be 8,27,000. This is factory cost oblique work cost. Now, after calculating the factory cost or work cost, we will add 4 items. That is quality control cost, research and development cost, administration overhead related to production, primary packing cost, and we will subtract credit for recoveries. Now, no information is given in the question as regards quality control cost, research and development cost. But yes, information is given in the question that administration overhead related to production is how much? 50,000. So we'll write admin overheads related to production. And that is given in the question, that is 50,000. Rest all, no information is given in the question. So we'll proceed further with calculation of cost of goods, cost of production. In cost of production, we will make adjustments of opening and closing stock of finished goods. So add opening stock of and subtract so herein in this question, opening stock of finished goods is given, that is 90,000. And closing stock is given, that is 1,10,000. So this will be cost of goods sold. This will be 8,57,000. In cost of goods sold, we will make adjustments. After calculating cost of goods sold, we will make adjustments for, or we will add all the general office overheads plus selling overhead and distribution overhead. So herein, there no information is given in the question as regards general administration overhead. Further information is given in the question as regards selling and distribution overhead. So we will add and it is given in the question that it is 25,000. Rest all, no information is given in the question. So 8,57,000 plus 25,000, this will be 8,82,000. This will be cost of sales. Further, let me check what else is given in the question. here in the total sales figure is given. So if we add profit, or if we write sales here also, the total sales is how much? 10 lakh. So my profit will be 10 lakh minus 8,82,000. $1,18,000. This will be my profit. Now the question is asked us to calculate raw material consumed. So this is raw material consumed. The next is prime cost. So herein this is my prime cost. Next is factory cost or work cost. So this is my factory cost or work cost. Next is cost of goods sold. So this is my cost of goods sold. And finally the net profit. So this is my net profit. So if you guys are thorough with the concept, plus if अगर आपका फॉर्मेट जो है कॉस्ट शीट का वो पूरा दिमाग में फिट है, so it's very easy to solve such type of questions. So if you guys have any query, you guys can please post your query. Very good, Alok. Mr. Maurya, Miss Maurya, sorry. Right now, I have to cover cost sheet only. So I'll be keeping a query session after completing all the chapters. So in that query session, I'll try to address all your queries relating to material or overheads, whatever it is. So guys, we are done with this question. If you guys have any query, you guys can please post your query, else we'll start with the next question, where I'll be discussing practical question number 2. If you guys have any query in this part or any conceptual queries relating to cost sheet, you guys can please post, else I'll be starting with practical question number 2. So guys, let's start. The solution is there in the study material, so no need to copy this part. So let's start, guys, with practical question number 2. From the following particulars, you are required to prepare the monthly cost sheet of Aditya Industries. The opening inventory is given, that is raw material, work in progress, and finished goods. So opening stock is given. When talking about closing inventory, the value of raw material is given, closing raw material is given, closing work in progress is given, but closing stock of finished goods value is not given. So this will be valued at cost of production. So we have to calculate the cost of production per unit also. Thereafter, raw material purchased is given. GST paid on raw material purchase, input tax credit available 7,20,000. Very important, guys. हमने GST pay किया है and we are getting the credit back. So no point adding and subtracting, better ignore it. So on GST, if you are getting the credit back, better ignore it. Wages paid to production worker will form part of direct wages. Expenses paid for utilities, it's a direct expenses. Office and administration expenses paid, traveling allowance paid to office staff, it will form part of office and administration overhead. Sales expenses is 6,46,000, it will form part of selling and distribution expenses. Machine hours worked 21,600. Machine rate is 8 rupees per hour. So they are talking about the factory overheads. Units sold is 1,60,000. Units manufactured are 1,94,000. It means what? 34,000 units are still in stock. We have to make the adjustments of opening work in progress also. Sorry, opening stock of finished goods also. Desired profit is 15% of sales. So herein we have to calculate, prepare the cost sheet, and we have to calculate the sales. So guys, let's start with cost sheet. Yes, Mr. Smile. So let's start. From the following particulars, you are required to prepare monthly cost statement. So now, herein, since the value of finished goods is not given, the value of closing stock of finished goods is not given. So we will have to prepare the per unit statement also and the total statement also. Alternatively, you can calculate it in amount also, but I want to discuss a question wherein how to calculate the per unit cost also. That's why I am discussing this question. So covering this part also, that is how to calculate the per unit cost and the total cost. So let's start, guys. Opening stock of raw material that is given in the question, that is 12 lakh. And next is purchase of raw material, that is 1 crore 44 lakh. Less closing stock of raw material that is given in the question, that is 14 lakh. So we'll get raw material consumed this will be 1 crore 42 lakh. Herein in this question, it is clearly given that the units manufactured are 1,94,000. So units produced 1,94,000 and units sold. It is given in the question, units sold are 1,60,000. We'll write these two information also. So 14,20,000 divided by the number of units manufactured. So we'll get the per unit cost, that is 73.19. In this raw material, we'll add the wages paid. So the total amount of wages paid is the total amount of wages paid is 36,64,000 divided by units produced. So the per unit cost will be 18.88. 18.89 we can write. Thereafter, expenses for utilities is direct expenses. Expenses for utilities is direct expenses, and it is 1,45,600. So this will be 0.75. So the total of material plus wages plus direct expenses will be what? The prime cost. And the total of the prime cost will be 1,42 lakh. This will be 92.83. Now, next is factory overheads. Herein, the hours are given and the absorption rate is given, that is, hours are 21,600 and the absorption rate is rupees 8. So 21,600 into 8. $172,800. So this is my factory overhead divided by 1,94,000, that is 0.89. After factory overheads, we will get the gross. We will get the gross factory cost or work cost. So my gross factory cost and work cost will be 18182400. And this will be 93.70. In gross factory overhead, we will make adjustments of opening and closing work in progress. So herein in this question, opening and closing work in progress is given. That is, add so opening and closing work in progress is given, that is 18 lakh is the opening work in progress and 16 lakh 4,000 is the closing work in progress. So 1 crore 83 lakh 1 crore 83 lakh 78,400 divided by. So this will be 94.73. This will be the my factory cost or work cost. Now, after calculating the factory cost or work cost, we will add 4 points, that is quality control cost, research and development cost, administration overhead related to production, plus primary packing cost, less credit for recoveries. Now in this question, I can't find anything related to these 4 to 5 points. So better, instead of writing factory cost or work cost, this will be what? My cost of production. Since no information is given as regards quality control cost, or we can say research and development cost, etc., etc. So the total cost, that is 1 crore 83 lakh 78,400 is what? My cost of production. Now in this we will make adjustments of opening and closing stock of finished goods. When talking about the opening stock of finished goods, it is given in the question that the opening stock value is 9,60,000 and there are 10,000 units. The value is 9,60,000 and the number of units are 10,000. When talking about the closing stock, neither the value is given nor the number of units is given. So herein, we will calculate the value of finished goods. So now, first and the foremost thing, opening stock is given, that is 10,000 units. Units manufactured is given, units produced is given, that is 1,94,000. Units sold are given, that is 1,60,000. So 10,000 units were in stock. We manufactured 1,94,000 units during the year. So it means total 2,04,000 units were in hand. Of this 2,04,000 units, 1,60,000 units were sold. So units that are still in stock is 44,000. And as I told you guys, the value of finished goods, if not given in the question, will be valued at the cost of production. So here in cost of production is given in the question. Cost of production we have already calculated, that is 94.73. So the value of closing stock of finished goods will be 44,000 into 94.73. So this will be 41,68,120. If you guys have any doubts in this calculation, you guys can please ask me. Waiting for your queries. So if you guys have any doubts in this calculation, you guys can please ask me. Sir, 73.19, how to calculate? See, till here, I request you guys to please copy this part. I request you guys to please copy this explanation. Now guys, very important. Right from start, that is from material consumed till my cost of production. It talks about the number of units produced. So the per unit rate will be calculated on the basis of units produced. Till the cost of production, right from start, that is from direct material till the cost of production, the per unit rate will be calculated using units produced. And from here and onwards, since we have made the effect of opening and closing stock of finished goods. So from here and onwards, the per unit rate will be calculated using units sold. Because we have already deducted the number of units that are still in stock. So from here and onwards, the per unit rate will be calculated using units sold. So from material till the cost of production, the per unit rate will be calculated using units actually manufactured. And from here and onwards, the per unit rate will be calculated using units sold. So here we'll be getting cost of units sold or cost of goods sold. The name itself says the cost of the goods that are actually sold. So the per unit rate will be calculated using the units actually sold. So 1,51,70,280 divided by the number of units actually sold, that is 1,60,000. So my per unit rate will be 94.81. If you guys have any doubts in this part, you guys can please ask me. Right from start, I think I'm not being able to find my red marker. So guys, please do make a note of it that the raw material, right from raw material consumed till the cost of production, the per unit rate will be calculated using units produced. And thereafter, after making adjustments of opening and closing stock of finished goods, we will be getting the number of units sold. So the per unit rate will be calculated using number of units sold. So in this, we will make the adjustments of office and selling and distribution overhead, and thereafter we can easily calculate the cost of sales. Herein we will add the office and administration expenses, that is 26,52,000. Now the per unit rate will be calculated on the basis of number of units sold. So 26,52,000 divided by the number of units sold, that is 1,60,000. So 16.57. Next is traveling allowance paid to office staff. The total amount is 1,21,000. divided by 1,60,000. So let's write it 0.76. Next is selling expenses, that is 6 lakh. That is 6,46,000 divided by 1,60,000 units. So this will be 4.04. So this is how we can easily calculate the cost of sales. So my cost of sales will be one crore 85 lakh 89,280. So this is the way you guys have to present the statement of cost sheet. Now, in this cost of sales, if we add a profit, we will get the sales. So when talking about how to calculate the sales amount, it is given that we have calculated the cost of sales, that is 185,89,280. Now it is given in the question that the profit is how much? 15% of the sales. The profit is 15% of the sales. It means what? If the sales is 100, profit is 15, then the cost will be how much? 85. So this will be 85. So how much will be 100? So the sales will be 2 crore 2 crore 18 lakh 16. So this is the way we have to solve the question. If you guys have any doubts, you guys can please post your query. No worries, Mr. Abdul. Very good, Alok. I hope, Mr. Smile, your doubt is resolved. I request you guys to please copy this part. Thereafter, we'll proceed with the next question, that is practical question number 1. Yes, you have to show the calculation of finished goods in working note only. Anyone else having any doubts? Shivani, Priyanka, Abdul, Sunil Kumar, Manoj Kumar, Afreen, Khush, Nimisha, Francis. Anyone else? Priyanka, any doubts? Kanchan, any doubts? Kavita? Yes, working note is necessary, Sunil Kumar. So guys, now let's start with practical question number 1 of the study material. The page number is 6.21. Now let's start with practical question number 1. The book of Adarsh Manufacturing Company presents the following data for the month of April, wherein the direct labor cost is given, that is 17,500, being 175% of the work overhead. So work overheads will be how much? 1,75,000 divided by 175 into 100. So the work overheads will be 10,000. The cost of goods sold, excluding administration expenses, are 56,000. Anyways, cost of goods sold में administration expenses आते भी नहीं है. It forms part of cost of sales. So no worries. Inventory shows the following opening and closing balances, wherein the opening stock of raw material and closing stock is given. Opening and closing stock of work in progress is given, and opening and closing stock of finished goods is also given. Further, the other data is given, that is selling expenses, general and administration expenses, and further the sales for the month is given. Now you are required to find out the value of material purchase. Question में material purchase ही नहीं given है. So now the point is how to find the value of material purchase. But yes, the question has provided us the information relating to cost of goods sold. So we have to make the reverse calculation for calculating the value of material purchase. So very simple guys, जहां पे आप सीधा सीधा स्टार्ट करते थे, स्टार्ट द रिवर्स कैलकुलेशन. जो ऐड होता था आप उसको सब्ट्रैक्ट कर दीजिए, जो सब्ट्रैक्ट होता था उसको आप ऐड कर दीजिए. So let's start guys with calculation of value of material purchased. Herein we will start from cost of goods sold, since cost of goods sold is given. So cost of goods sold से हमें reverse जाना है. So herein my cost of goods sold is how much? 56,000. Now, how we get cost of goods sold? That is, we used to add opening stock of finished goods and subtract closing stock of finished goods. So we will do the reverse calculation, that is add closing stock of finished goods and subtract opening stock of finished goods. So here in the closing stock is given, that is 19,000, and the opening stock is given, that is 17,600. So we will get what? The cost of production. So my cost of production will be how much? $57,400. Cost of production कैसे आता है? Very important, guys. We do add all the 4-5 points, that is quality control, inspection, administration overhead related to production. But since no information is given in the question as regards these 4-5 points, so better we will start from opening and closing work in progress. We will assume that this is not the cost of production, but this is the factory cost. So in this, we will make adjustments of add closing stock of work in progress and less opening stock of work in progress. So herein, the closing stock and opening stock is given in the question, that is 14,500 and 10,500. This will be what? My gross factory cost or work cost. So this will be 61,400. In this, we have to deduct what? The factory overheads to get the prime cost. So herein, my factory overheads I have already explained, that will be 10,000. I've already explained how come 10,000. That is 17,500 is 175% of factory overheads. So how much will be the factory overheads? 10,000. So this will be 51,400. This will be prime cost. In prime cost, if we deduct wages, and direct expenses, we will be getting how what? Raw material consumed. So herein, my direct wages are given, that is 17,500. This will be 33,900. If we make adjustments of opening and closing stock of raw material, so add so closing stock of raw material is 10,000. The closing stock of raw material is 10,600. And opening stock is given, that is 8,000. We'll get material purchased. So 33,900 plus 10,600 minus 8,000. 36,500 will be the value of material purchased. So again, stick to the concepts. Rest all, there is nothing like rocket science. The questions are very easy as compared to the other chapter. So better try to memorize the format plus stick to the concept, you will be able to solve. But yes, you have to apply your brains that what all are covered under factory overhead, what all are covered under office overhead, and what all are covered under selling and distribution overheads. Very good, Alok. No worries, Kanchan. That's completely okay. The most of the part is over now. So now this is all what about this chapter. There is one more practical question, that is practical question number 3. It's a very easy question wherein it's more or less like decision making. So at 30% capacity level, at 100% capacity level, you have to prepare the cost sheet. So again, a very simple question. Again, don't worry about the unnecessary information given in the question. Just stick to your concept कि अगर 30% पे अगर बनाना है तो क्या cost होगा और 100% पे बनाना है तो क्या cost होगा. So nothing to worry. The question is very simple, Abdul. So try to solve it. Still, if you are not being able to, then I'll be covering this part in the query session. So waiting for your queries, guys. Thank you so much, Kanchan. You can proceed. Very good, Alok. Still, we have 5 minutes. So if you guys have any query, you guys can please post your queries. Giving you 2 to 3 minutes time. Whatever the doubts, छोटा सा भी doubt है, please post your queries. I'll try to address your queries. Mahendra Pawar, the chapter examiner don't ask questions frequently on this chapter, but sometimes examiner do ask questions of 4 to 6 marks. That's it. But not that frequently. You guys can figure out because the chapter is very easy. So okay, I'll just inform the concerned person for the same, Alok, don't worry. Thank you so much, Sunil Kumar. Yes, Abdul. Good, Pranav. Very good. So guys, try to solve. There are very few questions in cost sheet. So try to solve as many as questions of the past practice manual. And if you have any, books or questions of graduation level, that is BCom, BAF, BMS, then you can practice some questions from the graduation level books also. Apart from this, you can refer the past practice manual and the past examination questions. So that is more than sufficient as far as this chapter is concerned. So not getting any sort of queries now. So I'm concluding the session. So thank you so much for your time and patience. See you guys in the next session with, I think it is process costing. So I'll be covering process costing now in the next session. So till then, try to solve all the questions what I have discussed in writing specifically. And if you have time, Saturday, Sunday is also coming. So if you guys have time, try to solve the questions of material and overheads and ABC also. So till then, take care of yourself. God bless you. See you soon in the next session. Take care, guys. Sir, I'm done. Ashok.